The electric guitar is arguably one of the most important and distinctive instruments in establishing the classic contemporary worship music sound. However, I need to make an important, though unpopular and potentially hurtful statement about the electric guitar from the onset. The electric guitar should not be considered a foundational instrument when it comes to church worship music. Now I know it kind of hurts me even to say it, but I think this is a true, helpful, and important statement to begin with as we take a closer look at the electric guitar as it pertains to the typical church worship team. So with that statement out of the way, if you are an electric guitar player or a worship leader who is trying to speak the guitar player's language and give them direction, we're going to walk through some super helpful tips in today's weekly worship thoughts. The fundamental frequencies for the electric guitar span the spectrum. Unlike the acoustic guitar, the electric guitar is often played all across the fretboard. So the fundamental frequency of the note you're playing could be anywhere from the open 6th string ringing at 82 Hertz to just over 1000 Hertz or 1 kilohertz if you're playing on the 20th fret of the 1st string. And that is a wide range of frequencies. Typically, and especially because the electric guitar is not a foundational instrument in church worship music, a good strategy for the electric guitarist is to first listen to what frequency range everyone else is playing in and then fill the void. All right, so with the electric guitar, all the way down here, the 6th string, open E, ringing through around 82 Hertz, and all the way up here, 12, 15, 17, 19, 20. You've got over 1K, and of course you're spanning the spectrum with this instrument, so there is a wide range of fundamental frequencies at play. The dynamic range of the electric guitar can be problematic. Because so many electric guitarists are getting their sound from stomp box pedals or even separate channels on their amp, there can be a significant volume difference from one setting to the next. Now, of course, you can also use this to your advantage if you're willing to think critically through the song. For instance, if there's a part of the song where you need to be louder to cut through the mix or to add energy to the song, then you can set your stomp box to give you that boost that you need and engage it at just the right time. So let's think through this idea real quick as an electric guitarist, and let's say that during the verses of a song, maybe even the choruses, you're kind of playing full chords, maybe arpeggiating or picking through a little bit, but then when you go to the solo, you're only playing individual notes. So it makes sense that you would want what you're playing through in the solo to actually be louder. Let's try that out. Here's our regular volume, and then when we're getting ready to go to the solo, it is quite a bit louder. So this is how those two will play together. Here's the verse. Into a solo. Back to the verse. The electric guitarist's musical buddy is actually the lead vocals, along with the keyboard or other auxiliary instruments. Many of the signature riffs and instrumentals that become iconic, memorable parts of church worship music are just inversions oftentimes of the melody line. In fact, playing the individual notes of the melody line during an instrumental is typically a great place to start when determining what to play for an instrumental. It's also very important for the electric guitar player to not play over top of the lead vocals. The electric guitar is not a foundational instrument. It is an extra piece that enhances the foundation. A good electric guitarist knows when to play and when not to play. Leaving space for the lead vocals and adding intentional riffs between vocal lines will typically yield the best results. Let's look at the guitar part from a song that I wrote called Fire, Fall Down. It's a pretty simple part, but it really helps us to understand this idea of playing when the lead vocals are not there. For the verse, I'm really up here on the 7th fret and the 4th string, right? And I'm just kind of palm muting. I'm in my bridge pickup and I'm just playing. So with the lyrics then it's, we've assembled here to praise. And now we've got some space. And in our brokenness we wait. And we won't turn back. We won't turn back. And you can hear how the guitar is really just coming in when the lyrics are not there, which is kind of cool. Now when we get to the chorus, we're actually going to increase the intensity a little bit, and how we're going to do that is we're going to stop palm muting. We're going to go into the middle pickup. I kicked on a stomp box, and I'm going to be on the 3rd string instead of the 4th string. So this is how that part goes. So you can definitely tell the intensity picked up a little bit. Now, one thing that aspiring electric guitarists need to understand is that the electric guitar is not a second acoustic guitar. It's not a first acoustic guitar either. I've seen far too many worship team members strap on an electric guitar and then proceed to play it like an acoustic guitar, but it's not an acoustic guitar. You strum it differently, you often chord it differently, it sounds different. In pretty much every way, the electric guitar is not an acoustic guitar. The electric guitar plays a completely different role in the band. If you want to just play open note chords and strum along with the hi-hat, please play the acoustic guitar instead. So if I were to play a song like, let's say, Because of the Cross on the acoustic guitar, I would end up playing it like this. And that sounds really good on the acoustic guitar. It sounds terrible on the electric guitar. So approaching that same song but with a different guitar, the electric guitar instead, I would play it like this. And then whenever I get to the chorus, I would probably play something like this. In pretty much every way, the electric guitar and the acoustic guitar are not the same instrument. The fact that the electric guitar is not a foundational instrument does not mean that it is an unimportant instrument. Quite the contrary. Many popular worship songs have a signature electric guitar riff or another part that immediately makes the song recognizable and invites worshipers to enter into passionate worship. For that reason, electric guitar players should strive to learn the signature, recognizable parts to each song and play those parts as well and as consistently as they possibly can. There are very few worship songs that are actually enhanced by an electric guitar player's improvising. So we were just talking about Because of the Cross, and the part that I just played, it sounds good, and it might be something that I would play in the verse, but it's not actually the signature guitar riff, and there is a signature guitar riff in that song. So I'll put just some slight overdrive on, get a little bit of a delay. I've got a reverb, and the actual part that I would want to learn, and I might even chart this out to make sure that I'm playing it every time, sounds like this. 1, 2, ready, go. It's a very simple part. So I might actually write down my settings and I might chart it out saying that I'm going to be on the 10th fret of the E string and then the 8th fret of the B string, 8th fret of the E string, and then once again 10th fret of the E string, 8th fret of the B string, and then 10th fret of the B string. He took our sins and He bore our shame. But you want to learn those signature riffs and make sure you're playing them consistently and well. If you have a second electric guitarist in the band, consider having one guitarist play power chords down in the lower register of the frequency spectrum, or maybe playing only during the chorus and or the big parts of the song. The other guitarist can then focus on playing signature riffs and mini chords in the upper register of the frequency spectrum. Many electric guitar players find themselves on an endless and fruitless quest for perfect tone. They acquire pedal after pedal, guitar after guitar, amp after amp, and they are never satisfied with the sound that they are making. What they fail to realize is that so much of your tone comes not from the gear you use, but from the fingertips. Tone is primarily in the fingertips. In other words, how you physically play the instrument is so much more important than the gear through which you are playing it. Now, it should be noted that electric guitarists use a lot of gear to create the sound they are looking for. Take time to understand how to organize and use your stomp box effects properly. Typical stomp box effects that can be considered essential gear in which to invest include tone-based effects such as compression, distortion, and overdrive, and timing-based effects such as delay and reverb. Everything else is kind of cool, but I wouldn't call it essential. Because the electric guitar is being played all over the fretboard, it is essential that the electric guitar player properly intonate their instrument. This means that they set the action in the string length to ensure that the open string and that same string held down at the 12th fret produce the same note, though an octave apart, one from another. If this is not the case, it needs to be fixed. If you are an electric guitarist, what was one interesting truth or idea that stood out to you about your instrument? And how do you think that truth or idea will help you in the future? If you are not an electric guitarist, what did you learn about how to effectively communicate with the electric guitarists in your worship team? In your own words, how would you say the electric guitar fits into the typical worship music pie? How big of a slice should they get? What is the main role for the electric guitar in a typical worship team setting? How does the electric guitar typically fit into your own worship team context? Do you think you typically give them too big of a slice, too small of a slice, or just right? Given the information you just received, what do you think is the #1 thing that individual electric guitarists in your specific worship team context should work on in order to improve the overall quality of the worship team as a whole?